out of mind. You found someone new, but I can't change my love the way that you do.
Good evening and welcome to the West End Video Newsletter. My name is Joe LaPiccolo, your host for this week's newsletter. Well, what is the West End Newsletter? The West End Newsletter is a program where we take you back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s to the old West End of Boston. And in those years, the West End was a multi-ethnic, multi-racial, thriving community that, what the sad thing about that is today, we don't find that today. And what the city fathers are trying to do is to fashion a community like the West End was. And the sad part about it is, I could say 35 years ago, they took this multi-ethnic, multi-racial community and wiped it out. They declared it a slum, a blighted area, and tore it down and built a home for the rich there today. And that's a shame. And what made the West End work? What made it such a special place? And one of the things that made it work was its community centers. And back in the 50s, we called them settlement houses, and today we call them community centers. And one of the community centers that really thrived in the West End and made men out of boys and taught them respect and so forth and so on, and sports, is the West End House. And after the West End House was torn down, the area was torn down, the West End House had no need to be there, so they moved to Brighton-Allston, and they've been in the Brighton-Allston area since the 50s, or early 60s. And today our topic is the West End House, and today our guests are Bill Margolin, Executive Director of the West End House. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Joe.
And Valerie May, Program Director of the West End House. Welcome to our show today.
Thanks very much.
Great. Bill, you've been associated with the West End House for, you were telling me, 23 years?
23 years
Right.
as a full-time worker, and I started at the camp in 1958, so my association goes back 38 years.
And Bill, I might add, is, I can't describe Bill. He's a person you can never replace.
Oh, about 6 foot tall, waving hair.
Bill's a wonderful, wonderful person. He's dedicated. He's the most dedicated person that I've ever met in my life. He's really dedicated to the West End House and to the children of the city. He puts numerous hours in, and he's a wonderful person, and there's no more I could say. And Bill, I'm so happy to have you here today as our guest, and you really tell us what you're doing today with the West End.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. And actually, I'm going to turn part of the program over to Valerie, who's going to tell you what's going on at the Boys and Girls Club. Just a few brief things. I want to thank you again for inviting the West End House to be represented, and we were a very important part of the old West End of Boston, as you know. And are now an equally important part in the Allston-Brighton area, which is a melting pot area and multi-ethnic area, just as the old West End was. So we're proud to be relocated in a similar type of
I'd like to
atmosphere.
say also, Bill, is you're still an important part of the old West End, because many, many members of the old West End community are still taking active part in the West End.
And the West End lives on in one area in the West End House and the West End House camp. A couple of, in a sense, brief announcements I'd like to make, and then turn part of the program over to Valerie. We were founded in 1906 by James Storrow, and most of the people know of James Storrow through Storrow Drive, but recently, and I don't know if the camera can pick this up, there was an article on James Storrow in the Harvard Alumni magazine, and he was a graduate of Harvard College, and we're very pleased that the West End House was mentioned there. He was, of course, the founder of it, and there was a picture in the Harvard magazine of James Storrow with some of the boys, so he certainly lives on in the lives of many people. The other thing I want to mention is that on November 2nd of 1996, we are having our 90th anniversary dinner.
Wonderful.
So it's going to be the Married Copley Place, and those people who are on our mailing list or want to be on our mailing list, please. I know the address, so the phone number will be flashed on the screen.
Why don't you give it right now, Bill?
The West End House at 105 Allston Street in Allston, 02134, and the number is 617-787-4044. We're in the phone book in the white pages under West End House, or actually the back section under West End House. But we'd love to have you for the 90th anniversary dinner, which is November 2nd, 1996. But the West End House is really in many different parts, and the year-round part, which is so very important as it was in the Old West End, is the club, which originally was a boys' club, and since the late 70s, and we officially changed our name to the West End House Boys and Girls Club. Valerie's been part of the West End House for a number of years now, and like many of us at the house, has worked her way up through the ranks, and now is the program director and is spearheading lots of great things in there. So if I can take leave and
Sure.
Turn the program over to Valerie for a while to tell the audience some of the things that are happening.
Sure, Valerie, welcome, and tell us what's going on today with the West End House.
Thank you. You mentioned that we were a community center, and I wanted to reiterate what Bill said. We are a Boys and Girls Club, part of Boys and Girls Clubs of America, one of the founding members of Boys and Girls Clubs of America. And like most Boys and Girls Clubs, we're an after-school drop-in facility, and we also have a summer program. We used to open up at 3 p.m. and stay open until about 9 p.m. for the kids in the neighborhood, and as Bill said also, it's a really mixed, very diverse neighborhood. That's one of my favorite things about it.
What are some of the programs you're running there these days?
Some of the programs that we've been running for years, actually, we have 2 large games rooms where we have ping pong and bumper pool and foosball and those sorts of things. We also have a beautiful gymnasium, lots of drop-in free basketball, but also organized programs, gym ball in there. We have a beautiful pool, which is a draw even for adult members in the community, where we offer swim lessons. We have free swim every day of the week. We have swim team. They have a pretty long season, and they did extremely well this year, our swim team. Some of the members actually went down and competed in a national meet in Florida a few weeks ago.
They did very well.
Oh, good.
They did very well.
Yes, they did do well. We had a 9-year-old boy bring home 7 medals on his own. He's pretty proud of that. Since I've been there, an educational component as well as a recreational component, we offer homework help for kids after school. We have a lot of volunteers from the local colleges, Boston College.
That's so important today to have. I remember going to the West End House as a youngster, and we had students from Harvard and MIT and all the local colleges come in, as you do today. And that made it such an important, that was such an important part of my life, and gave me the drive to go forward. And it really, really works, and it helps, and we should have more of that. I'm glad to see the tradition carrying on today.
Oh, it really does. From Boston College and Boston University and right from the neighborhood, older people who come in after work, at 5:30 in the evening and help out. We recently had a volunteer appreciation banquet honoring all of our volunteers who help out with swimming and basketball and in the homework club. We invited 115 people to the club, so that tells you how many people are reaching out. We have computers, we have arts and crafts, but some of the brand new exciting things just in the last 6 months. We had someone come to us who lived in the neighborhood who said that he was a climber, an outdoor climber, and he had built a climbing wall, or a number of climbing walls.
And could you get a shot of this climbing wall here?
Yeah, we built one.
Could you get a close-up on this, Jim?
With this man's help, and many volunteers, many hours, and lots of grant writing, we built a climbing wall in our gymnasium. It's a permanent part of the gym. And kids ages 7 to 20 are in there climbing the walls and learning a brand new skill, literally climbing the walls. And we have volunteer climbers who are down below belaying. It's a very safe activity. Also this year, for the very first year, we had a girls basketball team competing against other Boys and Girls Clubs. And they won the Boys and Girls Club championship for our region.
Super. Yeah, I remember as a youngster too, the West End House was noted for its basketball. There were championship basketball teams.
The boys teams did extremely well this year. They both made it to the finals.
What are some of the ethnic groups that are prevalent in the West End House today?
We actually have a large Brazilian population. We have still African American, white Irish Americans, lots of Asian. When we say Asian, that's it's Korean, that's Vietnamese, it's Chinese, Russian, Haitian. It's you can't
really diverse.
You can't find a majority when you walk in. It is that mixed.
Oh, great! And that's what makes it work. That's what makes it all come together. That's so exciting. It is exciting.
And one other brand new thing for us is we just, on April 6th, officially opened a teen center. We took 3 of our large meeting rooms and turned that into a facility that's just for kids 13 and up.
Oh, wonderful.
That's what, there was a survey done in our neighborhood by teens. They surveyed about 200 teens and asked them what they wanted, and one of the things they wanted most was a place that was just for them. And we did that in together with youth leaders at the Jackson Man Community Center. So we have 4 teen workers and youth outreach workers and 3 hired peer leaders. Well, they're not paid. Our peer leaders are doing it volunteer at the moment. And a brand new teen center.
Oh, great. That's so important today also. And tell me something, do you have educational facilities for anti-drug programs?
That's what some of the peer leaders will be doing. And we're actively involved in the Alston-Brighton Against Drugs Coalition and the Alston-Brighton Healthy Boston Coalition as well.
Good.
We have a strong affiliation with those groups.
And Bill, we're telling about the West End House today. Another thing that makes the West End House tick is its alumni. You have a great alumni and a health center, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the Alumni Association began in 1929, so it's been around for many, many years, and it's really been the mainstay of the West End House. As you know, we don't get any ongoing support from federal, city, or state, or United Way sources, and it's really been the Alumni Association that has spearheaded not only the fund drives, but also the management of the building, the advice of the building, the board of directors, etc. So these people have really been the support of the West End House. And it's a unique kind of thing. You think of it mainly in college kinds of settings, but the West End House Alumni Association is a grand group of people, men and women. We have an annual dinner, as you know, and we have the Men's Alumni Week at camp, which is a big
Speaking of the Men's Alumni Week, and speaking of the camp, we're going to break now for a little tape of the camp, and it's done professionally. And this will give you an idea of the West End House camp. And we'll do that now, and then we'll be back in a few minutes. So let's break for the tape, boys.
At the turn of the century, the West End House of Boston, one of the original charter members of the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, decided their young boys needed to get away from the city each summer. In 1908, founder James J. Storrow leased a 130-acre plot of land on Long Pond in East Parsonsfield, Maine. He thought it would be the perfect spot to establish the West End House Camp. Little did he know that over the course of the 20th century, the West End House Camp would continue to grow and flourish into what it is today. Not just one of the oldest residential camps in the country, but one of the most successful. In the words of the house song, as long as the sun is in the sky, the spirit of the house will never die. Today, Storrow's dream is still thriving. Since the late 50s, the camp has been upgraded and improved. What exists now is a far cry from the tents of Storrow's day, but the camp remains exactly what Storrow wanted. A place where young boys, 8 to 14, can go to enjoy all the comforts of home, learn to play sports fairly, become one with the beauty of the Maine woods, and coexist with other boys in a setting free from the problems of the city. Each day at the West End House, activities are split into 3 blocks: morning, afternoon, and evening. From the start of the campers' day, they're up and moving. At 8 a.m., while breakfast is being prepared by our kitchen staff, the flag is raised and our country is honored. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. From there, the 120 campers and 38 staff members file into the dining hall for breakfast. These kids will be moving all day. And while the food isn't quite as good as what Mom puts on the table, she's the best, after all, there's always enough food to go around to fuel their active bodies. When breakfast is finished, it's cleanup time for all the bunks. From the 8-year-olds all the way up to the 14-year-olds, everyone has a job to do. There's no skimping on your chores, because each day, everyone is graded on the cleanliness of their bunk. During cleanup, any campers in need of medical attention have time to visit with the camp medical staff. Throughout the entire summer, the camp has a full-time registered nurse. Also, doctors make periodic trips to the camp, and in case of a more serious problem, the local clinic is only 4 miles away, and the hospital in Sanford is only 15 miles away.
Bye.
When cleanup is over, the camp day truly begins. The campers are divided in half. The 8 to 11-year-olds are the juniors, the 12 to 14-year-olds the seniors. In the morning, the seniors are assigned to the waterfront, and the juniors are assigned to athletic competition.
Bend your elbows, okay?
The waterfront is the camp's pride and joy. The West End House owns over 4,000 feet of waterfront property, and nearly every foot is put to use. Without a doubt, the most important thing the campers learn at camp is how to swim.
Right into the crawl stroke, okay, of the leg.
The waterfront staff is one of the most experienced in the country, overseen by our waterfront director, a certified water safety instructor.
Well, that's probably the number one thing here at West End Waterfront is safety. I always say it, I say at the beginning of the year, safety first. Nobody learns anything the whole year and everything's safe, and I consider that better than anything, but we try our hardest to do both.
While it's imperative everyone learn how to swim, there's much more in store for the campers on the waterfront. The West End House has 2 water ski boats, 7 rowboats, 4 sailboats, and 10 canoes. Each camper is given individual instruction in all of these water sports. And while not everyone is guaranteed to learn something as difficult as water skiing and kneeboarding, each qualified camper gets a chance. Long Pond is big, beautiful, and clear as anything you've ever seen. It's no surprise visions of Long Pond remain with the campers throughout the long and cold New England winters. But waterfront isn't just water sports. No, not by a long shot. There's archery to master, tennis to be played, and of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't give the campers time to get in touch with their artistic side. Hardly a day goes by without someone in camp producing something even the most abstract artist would be proud of. While one half of the camp is busy on the waterfront, the other half is playing what's called leagues. All the campers are divided into 6 equal and competitive teams. Each day, the teams play each other in any number of sports. From soccer to football, softball to basketball, volleyball to kickball, juggling to team handball. Everyone competes and everyone learns by competing.
Our philosophy very strongly is competition is nice and competition is fun, but competition is not the end-all be-all. It's nice to win, it's nice to play hard, but we very, very strongly teach our kids that winning isn't everything. Doing your best is everything.
Once the morning activities are complete, the campers have about an hour to relax and mingle with their friends. Also, there are general swims, team practices and tryouts, and open courts for anyone who wants to use them.
His name is McLean, okay? Yep, we taught him how to play basketball. He's out of here. We did. I taught him how to play basketball. And he knows it, too.
Also during this time, the counselors conduct mail call. Whether it's a postcard, a letter, or the always anticipated package from home, there's plenty of time to read and share with your bunkmates. And don't worry about not getting any mail from your son. At least twice a week, each camper must produce a letter or postcard addressed to his parents or other family members. That way, you'll know everything's okay, even though we can't guarantee proper spelling. At noon each day, it's back into the dining hall for lunch. Results of the morning league games are read, and the afternoon schedule is announced. Those campers that had waterfront in the morning will have leagues, and the campers that played leagues in the morning will be on the waterfront in the afternoon. After lunch, a 1-hour rest period gives the campers and counselors time to relax and get to know each other better.
1, 2, 3, yeah!
While the campers compete in leagues every day, the most exciting times are when the camp is unified during inter-camp sports. The West End House competes against numerous other camps in Maine and New Hampshire. The games are always hard-fought and a great chance to show other camps the best of the West End House.
Their camp is really, it's a very important part of the camp experience. In addition to the leagues that we have and the competition, it's good to also get out and see other camps, play other camps, let them see us, to show them really the pride and the spirit of West End House, because we always have very competitive teams, very well-behaved teams, they're good sportsmen.
It's a lot of tradition. It's real fun representing West End House, and inter-camp sports is real fun because we usually mostly win. hard games because we're better than all the other camps.
When the afternoon activities are finished and the flag has been lowered, it's time for dinner. Many times during the summer, the campers are treated to a cookout. Hamburgers and hot dogs for everyone. The counselors do the cooking, the counselors do the serving, and the kids do the eating. Just like your barbecues back home, can't beat food hot off the grill. Now, while it may look like the campers couldn't possibly fit any more action into their day, there's still more fun to come at the West End House Camp. Shortly after dinner, it's time for the evening activity. Every night during the summer, the counselors think up ways to keep the campers moving.
Each day is a new creative thing, and we have like a couple of days to prepare for these things. So it's not just, you know, a spur-of-the-moment activity. We have people thinking about it days in advance, and that keeps everything fresh and exciting and getting new wrinkles in it each year.
From 8 o'clock in the morning until lights out at 10 o'clock each night, 14 hours of action are crammed into each day of the summer at the West End House Camp. As the sun sets over Long Pond, the counselors are busy planning tomorrow's activities. And that's the secret behind the camp's success. The counselors, 38 young men, each and every one an ex-camper. From first-year counselors in training on up to senior counselors, these guys know what it's like to be a camper. They know how it feels to be homesick. They know how to psych up kids for activities. And they know how to console them when their teams lose.
This is a very, very strong point of West End House Camp. It's a friendly staff. It's a caring staff. It's a staff that I don't have to really train each year. They know the history, the traditions, the formalities, and most importantly, they know these children. So anybody that's brand new to this camp, they pick up on right away. Say, who's that new child? Let me get to know him, because we already know the old kids. We like them, we care for them, etc. But it's the new children we go after right away to find out something about them and what their strengths and weaknesses are and how we can help them.
Of the 120 campers, many are second and third generation campers. Jason Cublin's father, uncle, and cousin were all West End House campers, and the legacy continues.
Hopefully I'll have kids that come here and they'll experience the same thing as my uncle, my father, myself, and my cousin will experience.
But the camp is not homogenous like many other camps in New England. The West End House prides itself in fostering understanding between races and creeds. Everyone is welcome at the camp, and everyone is treated equally.
Nobody here really bothers you. It's like real peaceful. Like where I live in the city. This is like a little countryside for me. Get away for the summertime. I don't have to worry about anything like that in the city or anything.
I didn't know what to expect. I always said to myself I'd never come to go to a sleepaway camp, and especially where I only knew one person up here originally. It's a lot very different. But I made a lot of friends right away, and it was just great. Most of my friends from my age group, we usually get together like 6 or 7 times over the off season, and we call each other. I call mostly everybody every week, and we stay in touch all the time.
Hi, Dad. I'm having a great time at camp, and I hope to come here next year.
Since the early 1900s, the West End House Camp has been a summer home for thousands of kids. Not everyone gets the same thing out of the summer, but there is one common denominator. When you're one of the boys of the West End House, you're always one of the boys. You learn that winning isn't everything, trying your best is everything. You learn no two people are exactly the same, and that there's nothing more wonderful than meeting new friends. Friends that will be your brothers for life. You can depend on them when you're 8 years old, and they'll still be there when you're 80. That's the idea behind the West End House Camp. James J. Storrow wanted it that way.
Gee, we're back live now. You're watching the West End Video Newsletter. My name is Joe LaPiccolo, your host for this week's newsletter. And our guests tonight are Bill Margolin, Executive Director of the West End House, and Valerie May, Program Director. Gee, Bill, sign me up for camp, will you? I enjoyed that. That was a wonderful production.
Yeah.
Who did that?
Great thanks to a young man named Howard Green, who's a sportscaster for New England Cable News. Previous to that, he worked at television stations in Portland, Maine and Bangor, Maine. Went to the camp as a camper, went as a counselor, has helped us out at the shootouts and at the West End House Boys and Girls Club. And it's that kind of member of the Alumni Association who makes the place work. And he came up with Jimmy Stoller to camp. They did some shots at the Boys and Girls Club with some of the old pictures, and he put it all together for us free of charge.
Great.
And it's a great marketing tool.
Tell us, somebody wants to go to the camp, where do they
Somebody
call?
wants to go to camp, 617-787-4044. Ask for Bill, and we'll take good care of them, and we accept them regardless of their ability to pay the full amount, etc. And we're very, very pleased to have them call.
Great.
For boys 8 to 14.
Wonderful. Well, I recently come up with a book from the 1930s, 1936 and 1937. Can we get a shot of this book? And this was a study done by a fellow by the name of Abraham Resnick. Abraham Resnick. Yeah, Resnick, and he was a social worker. And Abraham did a study of 22 boys from the West End House and a club called the Blossoms, which is from the Blossom Club in the Old West End. And we could take a peek of his writing there. And he did a history of the boys of the West End House. And gee, what a wonderful, wonderful study. And it turned out that when he started this study, there was he picked out 22 boys who were sort of troublesome boys, and followed them for a couple of years right through their West End House days. And by the time the study was over, they became wonderful young men and respectable and American boys that are wonderful today. And one of those is Mike Cataldo, who still belongs to the club and still a big part of the West End House.
I don't think he was troublesome to begin with.
No,
he
no.
certainly turned out to be a past president of our corporation and alumni association, and many others in there who are very familiar to us. But these were the kind of youngsters who grew up with the club and found in the West End House, as the Boys and Girls now find, a home, a place, a sense of belonging, and a staff that they can come to, whether it's me or Valerie or other members of the staff, that they can feel very much wanted and very much part of the proceedings.
If somebody could take this study that they did in the 30s and do it and model it for today, I think you'd see a big improvement in the city today, the climate of the city for youngsters.
Yeah.
Can you give us the phone number again?
Okay, 617-787-4044. Anytime, day or night, all through the year, there's always somebody there, and we're always happy to be of service, both for the camp and for the Boys and Girls Club. If you haven't seen the Boys and Girls Club out there, come by and see the West End House. Magnificent structure. It's 23, 24 years old, and we're very, very proud of what we do and the lives that we affect. Over 1,000 children each year at the Boys and Girls Club.
All right, everybody join the West End House, and thank you for being here today, Bill.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you, Valerie. You were very informative. And I'd like to close the show by saying, the spirit of the house shall never die. See you at the next West End video newsletter. Good evening.
That you